Bonjour French students, welcome to video 8 of chapitre 3, and the topic of this video will be la place de l'adjectif. You can see from that title there are already a couple of French words that look very much like English, very much like place or adjective. So this is basically about where we place the adjective in a French expression or sentence. So as native English speakers, we're already very used to putting all of our adjectives or descriptive words before nouns. So when you're learning a language like French or even other Romance languages like Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian, they all follow the same pattern, which is that we put the adjective after the noun. So we've got a few examples here up at the top. Un quartier moderne, so we have a modern neighborhood. Une chambre agréable, so a pleasant room. And finally, des murs blancs, some white walls. So the pattern we see here is an article, and the articles could be un, could be une, des, le, la, les, depending on whether they're definite or indefinite articles. The noun itself comes in the middle, and then the adjective follows that at the end. The important thing to remember about adjectives, however, coming after their nouns in French, is that they also need to agree with the nouns in gender and in number. Sometimes the adjective might be invariable, like it's not going to change, depending on what it's describing. For the most part, however, there will be some kind of change. So quartier is a masculine noun. The word moderne is going to be the same whether it's masculine or feminine. It doesn't change for that. But if I were to say des quartiers, like more than one neighborhood, adding an S to quartier, moderne is also going to have an S on it because they need to agree. Une chambre agréable, if I said des chambres agréables, like some rooms, I would add, I would change une to des, and I would add S to chambre, and I would also add an S to agréable, because I need to show that it agrees with chambre. Finally, des murs blancs, we already see the agreement here. A mur, there's more than one, there's an S on the end, so blanc normally would be spelled without an S, but because it agrees with more than one wall, des murs, I'm going to add an S to that. Okay, so we have to be very careful about making those adjectives agree with the nouns they're describing. Okay, so of course in every language there are always going to be exceptions to the rules. So even though the general pattern is that adjectives follow nouns, there are 15 very common adjectives that are placed before the noun. And those are beau, which is the masculine form, or belle, which would be the feminine form. So I can say une belle femme, a beautiful woman. Okay, vieux, which is the masculine form, and vieille, which is the feminine form. So une vieille femme, an old woman. Okay, we have mauvais and mauvaise, which is bad in masculine and feminine. Grand and grande. I'm pronouncing the D at the end in the feminine form. Autre, which is other. Jolie has the same pronunciation in masculine and feminine. I'm just adding an E when it's feminine. Nouveau or nouvelle, masculine and feminine forms. Meilleur, the pronunciation does not change when I add an E, but I'm going to use the form with an E at the end when I'm describing something feminine. A petit or petite, so the pronunciation changes. Même is the same. Jeune is young. Bon or bonne, so good, masculine and feminine. Gentil and gentil, the pronunciation is the same. I just add le when it's agreeing with a feminine noun. Gros, which would be fat or large. Grosse is the feminine form of that. And then seul, I'm adding an E to the end of that to make it feminine, but the pronunciation is the same. So I can say un joli quartier, une grande chambre, de beaux murs. So notice the forms of the adjectives I'm using before each word. Joli quartier, this is describing a masculine noun quartier, so I don't need the E on the end of joli. A grande chambre, chambre is a feminine noun, so I'm using the feminine form, not grand, but grande. And finally, mur is plural. There's more than one. So rather than using a singular form, I'm using a plural form of beau, the masculine form of beau, and that happens to be irregular. I'm adding x to the end to make it plural. Okay, so a pretty consistent rule of word order, but of course we do have these exceptions. Okay, cardinal and ordinal numbers placed before nouns, just like those 15 words we just saw. So première, quatrième are going to come, these are ordinal numbers, and they're going to come before nouns, and they're basically adjectives describing those nouns. So première is the feminine form. The masculine form would be premier, without the E on the end and no accent. Et la quatrième maison would be the fourth house. And les trois chambres, the three rooms. So we have first, we have fourth, which would be ordinal numbers, and then the cardinal number trois. So I could say les quatre chambres, les 10 chambres, les huit chambres. So I can put any cardinal number in there and the word order is going to stay the same. Okay. A couple of exceptions, again, more exceptions. Gentil is an adjective that can be put before or after the noun, and the spelling of it, of course, depends on whether it's masculine or feminine. So I can say un gentil colocataire, a nice housemate or roommate. Un colocataire gentil, a nice housemate or roommate, it's the same thing. If I'm using the adjective seul, the meaning is going to change depending on where I put it. So this one is kind of movable. Un seul homme just means I'm counting one individual man. I'm pointing out that individual man. But if I say un homme seul, it's a man alone. It's a man without other people around him. Maybe he's lonely. Okay, so that one is a movable one, just like gentil. All right, and finally we have the adjectives beau, nouveau, and vieux, which have alternate masculine singular forms, belle, nouvelle, and vieille, which are used before nouns beginning with a vowel sound. Okay, so if I'm using these adjectives beau, nouveau, and vieux before a noun that starts with a consonant, it would be un beau canapé, un nouveau canapé. Oops. Sorry about that. Un nouveau canapé, un vieux canapé. I'm using the original forms. I'm not changing them or using any alternate forms. Okay, so if I am now putting those same adjectives before a word or a noun with a vowel sound, then I need to use a different form. So beau becomes belle before appartement. And why is that? It's for pronunciation. If I said un beau appartement, maybe it doesn't sound quite as good. Un bel appartement, the l sound at the end of belle kind of glides us into the word appartement. Un bel appartement. Un nouvel appartement. Un vieil appartement. So I think the L sound at the end of these alternate forms of these masculine adjectives just makes pronunciation easier. Okay, and if I'm using these adjectives before a feminine singular noun, it would be une belle maison, une nouvelle maison, une vieille maison. So kind of similar actually to the pronunciations of the masculine singular plus vowel sound, but the spellings are a little bit different in the feminine form. Okay, and the plural indefinite article des changes to de when a plural adjective is placed between it and the following noun. So the sentences we see here might give us some good examples of that. Tu as un beau salon avec de grandes fenêtres. Okay, so in this case, I wouldn't say, let's say I take out the adjective. I could say, tu as un beau salon avec des fenêtres. You have a beautiful room with some windows. Okay, so if I remove the adjective grande, I'm going to use des like I normally would. But as soon as I insert that adjective in there, then I need to change des to de. So hopefully that helps it to make a little bit more sense. And in the second sentence, it's the same. Je voudrais avoir d'autres rideaux et un autre canapé. Okay, so if I were to take out autre, I could say je voudrais avoir des rideaux. I would like to have some curtains. But as soon as I stick an adjective in there, then I'm going to change des to de. And since I'm changing des to de and it comes before an adjective that starts with a vowel, then I'm going to make a contraction out of it. Je voudrais avoir d'autres rideaux. I would like to have some other curtains. Et un autre canapé. In the case of un, this is not des, so I don't need to change anything. So, and another couch. So I would like to have some curtains and another couch. Okay, so un and une do not change before singular adjectives. So des becomes de. That's the one exception we have here. Okay, so that's a whole lot about adjective placement in French. Our next video, video 9, we'll be looking at la possession et les adjectifs possessifs. We've seen some of these already, actually, in some sentences and paragraphs and dictations and things you've been listening to. So the next topic should be relatively familiar to many of you, but it's a good review. Okay, so we'll stop there for video 8, and I'll see you again for video 9. Bonne nuit!